Okay, so I'm working with the molecule DEET, and I know its chemical formula has 12 carbons, 17 hydrogens, 1 nitrogen, and 1 oxygen, and I figured out what the structure looks like. I drew a picture of it, and I've chosen the colors. I'm using black for the carbons. That's what you should use too. I chose to use blue for oxygen. You could use red. Nitrogens I'm making green, and then all the hydrogens are going to be white. And now I want to start putting it all together. So here's an easy way to do it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out all the carbon and nitrogen and oxygen atoms first, not the hydrogens. I'm going to put those on last. I'm just laying out the atoms the same way that I see them here on the picture. I'm just laying them out the same way that they are on the picture. I happen to have a big copy of my picture, so I can just put them right on there. But you should lay them out on a table or a desk in front of you the same way that you see them in your diagram. And so what I did with all the hydrogens was I just put the hydrogens on a bond straw, and all 17 of them, so that I can put them on last, and then they're good to go. And then I've also got some chemical bonds that I'm going to use to join together all of these atoms. This makes up the backbone or the main structure of the molecule, and then all the hydrogens kind of just stick out all over the place on the ends. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to join together, wherever I see a line like this, the two atoms that are joined together. I'm going to use a straw to connect them. So the first one right here is a carbon atom joined to another carbon atom. So I'm going to stick those together, and there's just one bond between them. And then this next one right here is a carbon atom joined to a carbon atom. So I'm going to join that together with a single bond like that, and so on. Now some of these molecules might have what are called double bonds. So like for example, these two carbons here have 2 bonds between them. So that means that when I put them together, I'm going to have to take 2 of these prongs, and I'm going to have to bend them in a little bit. For the most part, I'm trying to keep the tetrahedral shape of these atoms the same way, but sometimes you have to bend them so they're pointing in the same direction so that you can join 2 of them together at a time. This is called a double bond. It's 2 pairs of electrons that are being shared between these 2 carbon atoms. So that double bond right there looks like this. And so that's what I'm doing right there. This is 2 bonds together like that. And then I'll continue to go around the molecule. The next one, I've got these 2 carbons right here. I'm going to join those with a single bond, like so. And my molecule here has a nice ring structure, so I'm going to make the ring structure first. And so I'm going to go around, I'm going to do this one right here. These are 2 carbon atoms joined together by a double bond. So I'm going to squeeze these together, and I'll put the 2 bonds on there. This is going to be kind of a long video, so if you want to pull up a chair and get some snacks. So then this carbon right here is double bonded to that one, so I'm going to squeeze these together and join them on there. The double bond and the single bond each give a different shape to the molecule. Okay, the next one right here, 2 carbon atoms joined together with 1 bond. So all the places where I'm not joining anything, all the little prongs that are sticking out on these carbons that I didn't attach anything to, that's where I'm going to put all the hydrogens when I'm done. I'm going to go back and get all those later. So the next one right here, I've got 2 carbon atoms joined by double bonds. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to squeeze them together. I'm going to squeeze these together. And again, as much as possible, I'm trying to keep that tetrahedral shape, keep the angles of the bonds intact. That preserves the shape of the molecule. And when I'm done here, I'll have constructed the first ring in my molecule. Okay, come on together here. Alright, so far so good. So I've just made this part right here, and I don't have the hydrogens on there yet. I'm going to put those on last. So I'll put the hydrogens on after. Okay, so now I'm going to add this oxygen to the carbon, and so let me get a bond for that. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not ready for the oxygen yet. I need a carbon there. Okay, that carbon right there. And then I'll attach that nitrogen right there. There's a single bond here, and then I'll do the double bond to the oxygen. Oxygen can only make 2 bonds. So this oxygen here, I'm going to squeeze together a couple of those prongs and add a bond to each one. The other two ends sticking out aren't going to get anything attached to them. And then this carbon right here, I'm going to squeeze those together to make that available for a double bond, and so on. Okay, so far so good. Now I'll come over here, I'll do this nitrogen bonding to this carbon right here, right there. And then this carbon has another carbon attached to it, so I'll put that on there. So when you lay out the atoms first in the order that they go, according to your picture, that makes it so much easier to assemble the model. It'll come together very, very quickly. This nitrogen and that carbon, so I'll put those together. Now I'm not going to squeeze it flat. Some of these are going to keep a kind of an angle to them, and that's okay. That's the natural shape of this molecule. The next one right here, this carbon and this carbon right here, I'll join those together, and there we go. So that's kind of what it's looking like so far. So these are all the major atoms that make up the structure of the molecule. I haven't added the hydrogens yet. So then the next step would be to go around and add all the hydrogens on the carbons. Some of these carbons are going to get 3 hydrogens, some of them are just going to get 1, and some of them will get 2, and so on. So make sure that you know how many hydrogens to put on. This nitrogen right here, we're not going to put another bond on there. It can only make 3. This oxygen only made 2 bonds, so it's all done. And so after I put all the hydrogens on the ends of the carbons, 17 hydrogens, then I'll be all done with the molecule. And I'll have to figure out a way to make it hang from the ceiling, hang from my mini poster without falling apart. So that might be a bit of a challenge. I've got some extra sturdy wire that we can use to put these things together so that they don't flop around, because they are kind of delicate once they get real big. This one's kind of a big molecule. If yours is big like mine, it might flop around some, and we don't want that. We want it to hang nice and neat from the ceiling. So I'm just going to keep adding my hydrogens going around, all 17 of them. On the ends here I've got 3 hydrogens, and so on and so forth. Looking pretty good. Make sure I counted out my hydrogens. I think I counted correctly. Got 2 more here. 1 and 2. Now I know I made that look real easy, because you know what? It really is easy if you plan ahead and have a strategy for getting it assembled. It'll all come together easy peasy. Now it is a little bit floppy, so I'm going to have to come up with a way to hold this together. I'll use some wire to do that, and once we get your model made, we'll figure out how to get it to hang from the ceiling safely. Alright,